What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yu, and you're watching the DC edition of the Ragin Nation show. This is just a web series where we talk about all things that matter to me in the world of the DC Extended Universe. This is episode number 34, and in this episode, we got to talk about Man of Steel 2. And is it really happening? There's been a lot of talk about Man of Steel 2. Is George Miller directing? When is it coming out? Possibly 2019, 2020. Is Warner Brothers and DC Entertainment going to focus more on Superman, or are they going to focus on Batman? There's a lot of talk going on right now, but there's one person who doesn't seem to know very much about the possibility of a solo Superman film, like a standalone Superman film, and that would be none other than Zack Snyder, the man who started it all, the man who started off the DC Extended Universe with Man of Steel. He doesn't seem to have a clue about Man of Steel 2. As a matter of fact, he put out a little bit of a comment which states that he doesn't really know about anything about Man of Steel 2 happening at all. And here's what he had to say. I think in a way Batman vs. Superman is Man of Steel 2. Justice League is kind of the transcendent Knights of the Round Table of the story. It'd be interesting to think about what a standalone Superman movie might be. So this tells us that he never really even thought about Man of Steel 2, and in a way, Dawn of Justice, Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice that is Man of Steel 2. I mean, but I won't definitively say that it is Man of Steel 2. He just thinks of it as Man of Steel 2. As for a Superman standalone film, there still is a possibility that that could happen, but I'll tell you that Zack Snyder doesn't know anything about that right now. After all, he is the director for Dawn of Justice, or rather Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, Justice League Part 1, Justice League Part 2. He's not a producer like Kevin Feige is, who oversees the entire production of all those Marvel films. He's not that guy. They don't have a Kevin Feige type of producer for the DC Extended Universe, and therefore he wouldn't know what would happen after Justice League Part 2. Once he's done Justice League Part 2, he's done. He's probably going to go off to direct something else that is not even DC Extended Universe related, but the fact is that he's a director. He works on one movie at a time as opposed to what a producer does, and that is overseeing several movies at the same time. And in the case of a cinematic universe, or rather an extended universe, you would oversee everything that plays out by mapping out every single story and how they're connected. So therefore, Man of Steel 2 doesn't really seem to be in the pipeline. At least not for Zack Snyder. It's possible even for Warner Brothers and Kevin Tsujihara. He's the CEO or president. He's never even mentioned anything about a standalone Superman sequel. In a way, I find that Warner Brothers favors Batman. After all, they've done 4 Batmans in the past. In the Michael Keaton that canon of the film, that Batman saga, even though it was played by other actors. And then they did another very, very successful trilogy with the Dark Knight trilogy and Christopher Nolan, and they know that Batman is a very, very popular character. They've tried to get Superman off the ground a couple of times, and it didn't work for most of those times, unfortunately. So, in a way, I think Warner Brothers is being very, very cautious if they decide to reapproach the story of Superman in a standalone film. So therefore, I don't think that Man of Steel 2 is going to be happening. At least it's not in their plans. They're going to stick with what they're going with right now, and that is, The Flash, Green Lantern, Justice League's Parts 1 and 2, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, and I'm not sure what they currently have planned for now. Maybe a Suicide Squad sequel, but as for a standalone Superman film, no plans for it. It's kind of like what they're doing with Pacific Rim 2. It's not indefinitely halted, but there is no talk about it at all. Like, at all. Okay, there was some rumors about George Miller directing, but I think it's just the fact that Warner Brothers just wants to see George Miller, or rather working together with George Miller again after Mad Max Fury Road. But there was no confirmation on if he was going to even direct a DC Extended Universe film for Warner Brothers. All right. As for Zack Snyder, just like I said, he is only focusing on the movie that he's working on at this moment. But he doesn't have any blueprints or plans for a second Superman standalone film, which is quite disappointing. Because in a previous episode, I talked about how Brainiac would be playing a role, and also Supergirl would appear. And it looks like, well, that is all rumors after all, and it is still a rumor that he could appear. But, like I said, it's not happening. Brainiac would have been a great adversary in a Superman standalone film, but we're just going to have to cross our fingers. So for the time being, none of anything about Man of Steel 2 is in the pipeline, which is unfortunate. So we don't really need to talk about it for the time being. I think that Warner Brothers is playing their cards very, very carefully. They're not trying to be like too overzealous, and they don't want to be like Marvel Studios where they announced everything for the for the rest of the next couple of years. They're just going to announce their most solid characters, which are in the DC, or rather Justice League, and then after that they're not going to branch off too far until they've really established what they got. Because when you really think about it, it's essentially going through a testing phase. Nobody knows how these films are going to do. Nobody knows that these films are going to do well. Marvel Studios, every single one of their films are going to be a hit. They just have this very successful formula. They know what they're doing. But right now, for Warner Brothers and DC Entertainment, they're still testing the waters, because Man of Steel 1, in a way, kind of was built up on anticipation and Christopher Nolan, like him serving as a producer, and hype, and almost a little bit of luck. Okay, but there you have it. That's really all I have to say. I just really want to mention to you guys that Zack Snyder thinks of Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice as Man of Steel 2. But that kind of, like, thinking that way kind of hurts our chances of actually seeing Man of Steel 2. And I'm thinking that if they decide they want to have a standalone Superman film, are they going to call it Man of Steel 3? Or give it an entirely different name? Kind of like what they did with Batman. Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises. So, I don't know. Anyways, that's all I got to say about in this video. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments section below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video or you want to see more, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter @RaginNation. My name is Alex Yu. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace. Which looked fantastic, but we don't seem to get enough of that. And in fact, you don't get a whole geographical sense of where things are in relation to